There are 10 things that INFPs really hate doing. I figured this would help some people, especially if you have an INFP partner or a friend. This is not the complete list, these are just 10 things that we don't like. At least I personally don't like, and the few INFPs that I've known of don't like either. And these are in no particular order. So, number one, functions that they're invited to or they have to go to. We hate it. Oh my God. I can speak from personal experience. I don't like it when people are like, oh, here's this function. You want to go? And then I'm put in the position where I'm like, I have to make an excuse because I don't want to go. And if INFPs did not make the decision to want to go to something, or they're like, hey, I want to go to this, if they didn't invite themselves or they didn't look excited about it, you'll notice on their face too, if you read body language very well, when they're trying to be nice, but they're completely out of it, and when they're really excited about it. If they're really excited about it, like, oh my gosh, yes, and they're asking questions, trying to make plans, they're excited. They want to go. Like Comic-Con or something like that, or some kind of animal petting zoo. If it's something that they don't want to go to, they'll have this kind of like Karen, like, fakeness about them that's really easy to miss if you're someone who is not intuitive, because they'll just be kind of like, oh yeah, it seems nice. I mean, I'm kind of busy. I don't know. I have to see my schedule. If an INFP says that, they don't want to go. Trust me. If we really want to go to something, we will make the time and move our schedule around to want to go to it. We won't make excuses. If we're making excuses, we don't want to go. Stop inviting us. The second thing is disciplining. Oh my gosh. We hate disciplining. We can do it when we're put in the situation where we have to, like if we're the leader of a group, if we have kids or our animals. Nobody likes making someone else feel bad, but INFPs especially don't like that. I know that there are some personalities that get off on disciplining and showing their power. It makes me feel horrible. Even though I have to do it, or I have to scold my little brothers when they do something, I feel stupid afterwards. Like, not stupid, that's not the word. I feel horrible. And you can't go back and be like, I'm sorry, because that's going to negate the punishment. But I don't like being put in that situation. I would much rather sit down, which I did start doing, and my mom got upset at me for it. She's an INFJ, and she's a very staunch disciplinarian. Like, she's really strict. And at some point, first of all, there was one thing that I did that she didn't like, because she's like, I'm their mother. I'm like, all right, cool. So that just absolves me of having to do anything. So I would sit down with my brothers when they would do something wrong or that my mom wanted them to do, and I would say, hey, you know, why don't you do this, or what, do you forget, like, do you have too much on your plate, how about this? And I would make it fun for them, and we'd make a game out of it. And I found that doing that, especially when they were growing up and their kids, it was so much easier. I would still discipline them here and there when they needed to, like talk to them as their big sister, but I felt so good that I didn't have to be the mother. Color me fresh when my mother came to me one day and she's like, I know that you're their sister and you guys are really close, but I need help disciplining them when I'm away. And I'm thinking to myself, didn't this bitch just tell me that she was their mom when I tried to discipline them recently? I'm like, okay. And then I don't do that. And then she feels like she's not being helped. But whatever. The next thing is being social or in loud settings for too long. Like I said, if we invite ourselves or we actively go someplace, like we're like, yeah, you know what? I've never been to a rave before. Like, I've never been to a rave. And I'm like, I want to go to there. I'm curious. We'll timidly go in there and kind of look at our surroundings in our own time and not have to talk to anyone, just hang back in the shadows. And then we'll kind of creep up and gradually start talking to people or have people talk to us, because I don't know why we're like freaking magnets for people talking to us. And then we'll get into the groove of it. But if we're invited or we have to go out with friends, for some reason, the introversion just starts getting very overwhelming after a certain point, much quicker than if we went ourselves. And I think it's also the stress of knowing that you're there with people, you can't just leave. That's very stressful. We hate that. The next thing is, personally for me, having schedules. And it's not that we don't like schedules, but I find that a lot of other INFPs and myself, if you tell me every day at 9 to 7 you have to do this, if like it's a mandatory thing like your job or school, we'll do it. But I'd much rather take a job like I did, working somewhere where the days are always different. Some people don't like that. They like structure. INFPs don't like that. We don't like being boxed in a structure. We like everything to be different. There's certain things we'd want the same, but when it comes to our freedom and expression, we want to be different. Like, maybe this Friday I'm off and next Friday I'm working. That's good. At least I don't have every single one of my Fridays, because that starts to wear on you after a while. And that's something I liked about one of the cashier jobs that I worked. I like having that ability to work part-time, and some days I won't get to enjoy some things, and the next week I know I'm off. It's great. I love that. And we could do that long term and not suffer from it. Another thing is I have different exercise routines, and it's very hard because some days I'll just be sitting there, and then others I'll work out and do like 5 cardio sessions. And my husband, he's an INTJ, loves structure. He's like, when we go to the gym, okay, I'm gonna have a little Excel spreadsheet, and this is gonna be leg day. We do this many reps and we do this many reps. And while that is good, I let him do that and tell me how to do the reps. But it's kind of stupid, because what if tomorrow I don't want to do that first? I feel like running right now. And there's certain times when you're with a partner like an INTJ, they kind of help keep the INFP focused. Because if I was on my own, I would not do that. I would choose to do something different. Or if I did have to do that and follow it along very carefully, it is much harder for me to do it. I have to really, really focus and remind myself. Same thing with pills and medication. I don't like taking pills or medication. And if it's really mandatory, like when I had surgery some years back, I didn't forget that, because I knew, okay, well, I'm going to have pain if I don't take this. But when it came to like vitamins and stuff, took it for like the first 3 days and completely forgot. Like, I'm really, really bad with schedules and routine. That's why I always say to myself, you know what? INFPs are lucky, because if a serial killer is trying to kill us, they'll be so fucking confused. They'll be like, what? I can't get a read on this person. They do something different every single day. It's freaking frustrating, because you will never pin down what we're going to do. You're like, oh, you usually go there in this morning, or you usually get this. No, it always changes. The only thing I will say that I have stuck to a routine is when I do have treat days and I go out, I always get the same thing. So every month when I go out to go to a fast food place or whatever, I will order exactly the same thing, and they always know it's me. Or if I get the salads from Wendy's, I love the salads from there, and I always have a specific order or thing that I do. They're like, and they finish my order for me because they know it's me. That's the only thing that I will do routine. If I find something I like, I stick with it when it comes to food. Next thing is having people discourage me from being myself, or INFPs hate when they have people discourage them from being themselves. We're weird. We seem like extroverts, but we're not. So a lot of us are kind of not really social, asocial, and people will be like, come on, come do this, or stop doing that. That's for babies. Like, I'll be playing with my horses. Yes, I still play with model horses sometimes in the privacy of my own room. And if I want to take up my camera and make a little cute movie with horses, I'll do that. And my mom came in one time, and she's like, aren't you a little old to be playing with toys? I'm like, no, Ma, no, they're toys. You know, dolphins play when they're adults. Okay, that probably makes no sense, but they're social creatures who are also very, very smart. So I don't know why is it that there's some kind of threshold on when I can play and when I can't play. And my favorite thing to do is, although I don't like being in social settings with people, if I am there and kids usually come over to me and play with me, I don't know if there's a sign on my face saying, hey, new friend right here, but I'm able to play with toys and play with kids, and they love that. I can make stuff up in my head, like adventures, and like give different characters to the different kids and direct them and be like, okay, you're the red dragon, I'm the blue dragon, this is why we don't like each other, and this is how we end up being friends. That guy over there, he's Bowser. And like, I just start getting into this world. Like, that never ever went away from me. I still have imaginary friends. I know they're not actually real, but to me, they're a part of me, and I feel like my characters themselves could be real in my own little world that I make up, and we have adventure and an arc and an adventure that I have been following and writing in my head since I was a toddler. So, yeah. Maybe that's why a lot of us are writers and artists, because our minds just be that way, you know? And when someone tells us not to be ourselves, or that we have to conform to everyone else, INFPs do not like that. If you're the kind of person that's saying stuff like that to your INFP and trying to get them to conform because you're not cool enough, they will ghost you real quick. Unless they have dysfunction or abandonment issues, and INFPs usually cut off people like that very quickly, because the one thing that turns us off about other people is when you tell us that there's a problem with us being who we are. Now, one thing I'll say about that before I move on to the next thing is, if there is something about us that needs to be better, Like, for example, if an INFP is very bad with money and their friends tell them, look, you're really bad with money. Here's how you can save more money. It's still their decision whether they want to still be bad with money. But if you realize that your quality of life is failing and the INFP is mature enough to realize that, they will make changes and make that thing, fix that thing about themselves. That's not who they are at their core as a person. That's a bad habit that they do have as a result of their personality. There's a difference. Okay, next thing is, and I guess it's a little bit piggybacking off of the last thing, is having their idea shot down. There are times when people need to poke through holes in people's ideas because people like me who are very creative, more so than they're logical, like we can be logical, but our brain more so functions in art and abstract stuff. We're very good at making a whole bunch of things work in the entertainment or artistic realm of things like animations, stories, books, singing, all that stuff. And sometimes we'll want to do business ventures. A lot of my stuff worked. And then I fell off of it because I started getting nervous that it was getting so successful and I felt a lot of pressure. But the one thing I did stick with was YouTube. And I was doing my weird, silly stuff. And that worked twice. 2 big channels twice. And it's just something that comes with what you do. However, when I want to branch out and do something like a business venture, I am experienced enough now to know that I can't just leap into things with my face first. While that's good, and sometimes people have had that work, you end up losing a lot when you don't think and plan ahead. So I do ask certain questions like, how would I do this? Should I do this? Is it lucrative right now? Would it be like my book I'm writing right now that I took a break from? A lot of people like it. I have a huge audience for it right now. That's the one I stopped writing because I was nervous. But I've already had people approach me and say, hey, this could work. This could do this. And I would go to people like my husband, who's an INTJ, and I would say, hey, if I want to do this or like do an animation or a VTuber thing or whatever, he would poke holes in it. That's just the way his mind works. ENTJs and INTJs are a lot like that. And to an INFP who's very sensitive, it seems as though you're shooting down their idea. Like, instead of coming at it from the angle of asking them questions like, how would you do this? How would you do that? To get them to think about it, these people automatically say, no, that's stupid, that won't work. Or, that doesn't make any sense. Without trying to ask them, okay, how do you see this happening? Because sometimes we need people to do it. We need people to challenge us. We just don't want to be delusional and go out there and make mistakes. Sometimes we have to learn from our mistakes, but it'd be nice to have someone tell us, well, hey, that's a good idea or an interesting idea, but I don't think it's good right now. Here's why. Or here's how you could make it work. Maybe not today, maybe not tomorrow, maybe next year or around Christmas or something like that. But my husband at the time, he was like that, and so was my ex, who was an ENTJ, and they just argue and debate and shoot everything positive that you have down. That's the way that they learn. So if you have an INFP and you don't want to chase them off, because then what will happen? The INFP will just never talk to you again. They'll just not never talk to you, but when it comes to like their ideas, they just won't tell you. We don't necessarily want someone to gas us up, but we also want someone to believe in us. Like, hey, this is something that I'm passionate about. I want to write music. I want to do this. I want to do that. Don't sit there immediately and just say, oh, that's stupid. You can't do that. Okay? It would have been nice to tell me why. I mean, I can sing. So you just shoot it down and leave it like that. That doesn't make any sense. So that's the quick way for people who are sensitive or INFPs to just be like, nah. All I'm getting is negativity from this person. I want success, and they're clouded in failure and not, they gave up on their dream and telling me to give up on mine. Nah, son, I'm going to go somewhere else and just keep it moving. That is actually good advice for the most part. If you're surrounded by people who are constantly negative, while you do want to be grounded in reality, you also don't want to have people constantly telling you you can't do something, because then you'll never get anything done. Okay, the other thing that INFPs hate, telling people bad news. Oh my gosh. That's one of the reasons why I decided not to be a vet. I used to want to work for the Bell Ray Institute, and I was like, yes, I get to save animals. I love animals so much. And then you see the episodes where the vet didn't save an animal, and they have to come out and tell the owners that the animal's dead. And then they cry, and I start crying because I've lost animals, and I cannot. You could say that, well, 90% of the time we end up saving them. Yeah, but that 10% where I break someone's heart and they can never get it, I can't, that would hurt me. Like, when people cry, I'm very empathetic, like, ridiculously so. I'll see bones breaking on TV and I'll feel it in my leg. I can't do that. Like, that's for me something that makes me sick to my stomach. I don't like having people cry or hurting them or be the reason why they're hurt. The next thing that INFPs hate is unintentionally making friends. I know, tell me right now in the comments if there's any other INFPs that have unintentionally made friends that you did not want to make. We are very picky when it comes to our friends. Now, don't get it twisted. We make friends easily or we're friendly with people. People tend to want to be around us a lot. But we don't want to be like friends with you to that degree. But we won't ever say anything because we don't want to hurt your feelings. There are people that will latch onto you, like the story I told in the last video where this girl had a crush on me and was basically pushing that. And while she's sweet and I enjoyed having that little interaction with her, didn't really want you to go find my receipt and like text me. Like, that's weird. Like, not weird because I'm weird, so I get it, but that's kind of, I don't know. A best way I could explain it to you, you know, horses are very shy, especially wild horses. And at some point in time, they'll be okay with you being amongst them at a distance, looking at them. And if they come over to sniff you, all right, cool. That human's not gonna, you're not gonna hurt us. They come at a certain time, they leave. They watch us, they leave. We do whatever. We run off, they leave us alone. Well, what we don't like is when the human comes with a freaking saddle and bridle and trying to break us and catch us. Like, no, I didn't. You came halfway. I didn't meet you halfway. I stayed over here. As a matter of fact, I took 100 steps back from you. And maybe it's our fault too because people can't always see that. But somebody has to make the move. But what I don't like is when you give them very obvious hints that you think is obvious, at least. Like, hey, call me, okay? And then we never call you. And you call us again. If we don't call you back, even if we take your number, we'll take your number out of being polite. If we don't call you back or we ghost you, we don't want to be your friend. Leave us alone. Just because we're being friendly and we happen to be talking about the same things and we like the same things, it's not an invitation for us to sit down and have tea with each other. We don't want that. Trust me, you'll know when we want to be friends with you because we'll actually make the effort back. We'll reciprocate. What's very awkward is when we don't reciprocate and you keep coming on. That's, no. The next thing that we don't like is debating. Unless we're doing it in like a friendly way, I hate it when you talk about something and it's not a debate. Like, you'll say something, I'm just going to use an example. You'll say something like, oh, I like that book. I read that book. It was cool, Well, people who like that book are such and such. This book wasn't good because this book over here was good. Oh, okay. Well, that's fine. I just think this book is, well, if you really believe that, then you shouldn't be reading that book based on your beliefs. What? There's some people who just debate just to debate. And INTJs do that sometimes. Like, INTJs and ENTJs, I don't know what it is, but you'll say something simple and then there'll be an argument. Like, what? Why are we arguing? I'm saying something. I didn't even ask you a question. I was just saying something that I liked, or you asked me a question. I'm answering honestly, and all of a sudden, now people are getting mad, and then of course INFPs get passionate, and like, okay, wait. Are we really fighting because you didn't like the fact that I liked a book that you don't like? Really, bro? Like, that's weird. And if that person's not a friend or your husband or your wife or whatever, we ghost those people. We're like, negativity, no. Not that we'll never talk to you again, but if it comes to the point where everything is a debate and always negative, that's too much bad energy for INFPs. We like being happy and bubbly. When somebody comes with their angry freaking dark ass cloud, it starts to choke us up and we can't breathe around you. And then we start to avoid you on purpose. And then you'll notice when we're avoiding you. And the last thing, having to defend ourselves. Oh my God. Oh God almighty. I hate that so much. When we're in a situation we have to stand up for ourselves. Now, I grew up in Brooklyn, and people used to pick on me. I was a nerd. They used to pick on me, and I wouldn't defend myself. Since I was little, I've always been picked on until junior high school, when I finally decided, you know what, I'm going to stand up for myself, because too many people are trying to beat me up, and I'm done with that shit. I realize that if I have to be, mean or have a mean face, which is not a natural face, like position for my face, I have this weird smile thing going on when I'm in a resting position where I look approachable, and that's why people keep talking to me. Someone said you have a very kind, approachable face. And I'm like, oh gosh, I need to get rid of that. That's probably why people think I'm weak. So I started walking around like I was angry all the time. And that's how I had to survive in that school. But it was very awkward when people would come up to me and they want to fight me for no reason, just because they don't like me. And I would have to put myself, I don't want to fight these people. I'm tiny. Like, I don't want to fight, but I had to make myself look crazy so I don't get jumped. Like, it's one of those situations that is very stressful. And if you're in a situation like that and you're an INFP, get out of that situation. But it was school. It's not like I can just leave my school, and every other school that I could go to was either full or was worse. It was a very weird part in Brooklyn. But anyway, yeah, I don't like doing that. I don't like have to sit here and fight and defend my reputation. Another thing is, one of the ways that we'd have to defend ourselves is when somebody tries to disrepute us, and now we have to go up there and talk. I've had that with employers before, and I don't give a fuck who you are. I don't care if you fire me. I'm not going to sit there and let you talk to me like I'm your child or your concubine. I will tell you straight to your face in front of everybody if you come yelling at me where you can shove your freaking mouth. Don't come up to me and down talk me. And I tell my employers that straight. And I never got fired. For some reason, every single one of my employers that try to do that with me, I don't know why they do that. They see someone who's nice and they mistake that for weakness. So they think that they can just treat them horribly and talk down to them. For things that are very simple. Okay, I made a mistake. I didn't understand that this box wasn't supposed to go here. You don't sit there and yell at me and be like, hey, what are you doing? What? Well, who are you talking to right now? And in every single one of those situations, I don't like doing that. I don't like to go and curse off people or have those situations, but I have to defend myself. I don't like being embarrassed. I don't want people taking advantage of me. So in those cases, when I did do that, they backed off. They like, well, they would still fight with me and say, well, you do this. And I'm like, well, what you need to do is have some fucking class. Since you're an employer, you need to have some class and pull me to the side and tell me what I'm doing wrong or what is it I'm doing. Screaming at me in front of the customers is making you look bad. And I'm not going to keep working here if that's how you treat your employees. Something like that. So then, when they come up to me, they're respectful. They say, hey, can you do such and such and fill in for this person? Oh, sure. I didn't know that person was gone. Nobody told me anything. He didn't say he was leaving. But they would scream at everybody else. And I know there's a lot of INFPs that haven't gotten to that point yet where they're still scared. I know one girl where she's painfully shy. She was like me many years ago. And I was like, listen, you have to stand up for yourself. I'm not like you. Yeah, you're like me, a few years ago. And you have to decide inside yourself, like, hey, I don't want to be this person. I don't want people to take advantage of me like this. Because it will never stop. And I wanted it to stop. So that's one thing that is, I think it comes as you get older. Like when you leave high school and you go to college, it depends how bad it is too. If you never are put in that situation, I think that's the problem because the kind of school I went to a bad school. I didn't realize it was a bad school. I just went because my friends were going. But when you're thrust in that situation where you have to survive, you grow up a lot faster. And I think some INFPs never got that exposure to what I was exposed to. So later on in life, when they're in their like early 20s and the situation like that arises, they have no idea how to deal with it. And they don't like defending themselves because they don't like confrontation. Anyways, those are just like 10 of the things that we hate doing. Don't put us in that situation if you can help it. Because if you have a friend or a partner that is like this, maybe they're mature enough and these don't bother them anymore. But I know a lot of INFPs it bothers them. And they ghost you, then understand it probably is because you did one of those things. Anyways, I hope that helped.